Welcome to CreditRich Charcuterie. I'm your host, Angel Rich Jones. After graduating from college with $180,000 of debt, I've dedicated my life to helping you eliminate yours. Join us as we go on a wealth journey to financial freedom. Hello, how are you today?
I'm great. It is so good to be here with you today.
Same. Welcome to CreditRich Charcuterie.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely. Would you like to introduce yourself to our cheeseheads?
I would. I'm Jen Newdorfer. I run a fund called January Ventures, and we are a first check pre-seed fund, really taking an institutional approach to that first check. And we started January to invest in founders that are marrying global scale ambition with diverse perspectives to transform work, productivity, and health. And so we invest in startups that are primarily going B2B to market, but with founders who are leveraging their diversity to have unique perspectives. And so that's what we're doing. We're investing out of our second fund. We have 55 companies in the portfolio. And just really what I love doing and what gets me out of bed every morning is working with founders who are changing the world.
Very cool. So when did you all start?
My partner and I started investing together out of an angel fund in 2018, and we approached building January much like we would building a company. That was very much our MVP, our proof of concept, where we wanted to make sure that the product that we brought to market actually had pull. And so we tested and iterated in a way that our founders can really understand. And once we started to hear from our founders just how valuable they thought the relationship with us was, and once we started to see the pull for our brand and what we stood for, we went out and raised our first institutional fund. And one of the things that I think really sets us apart is our commitment to building the new networks in venture. And so venture capital, it's a very narrow network. My partner and I, we met at Stanford Business School. In the heart of Silicon Valley, even there, if you were not a white male, it was really hard to get venture capital.
Yeah, it is.
And there's a lot of friction. We could talk about this for hours, right? And my partner and I said, we see amazing women and people of color and immigrant founders and people outside of the Bay Area who are building venture scalable businesses, but there's so much friction in accessing that capital. That's an opportunity we want to lean into. And so we really think of January as writing the new networks in venture and tech. We source our founders from a different pool, plug them into our networks, remove friction, block and tackle for them as they build, and are really that catalyst and accelerant to them.
Nice. So I want to let our cheeseheads know before they roll their eyes and say another VC. I actually remember when you launched.
Amazing.
And that's the reason I wanted to chat with you, because I have sort of loosely been following the journey, and for what I've seen, you guys have done great work. When I saw that you were one of the judges for South by, I immediately recognized January Ventures, and I remember you all setting out with a mission, and this was pre-2020. This was just you all identifying that there was a gap in the market for founder funding, and you were going to go down a different path and sort of leverage your background to do that. So I almost think you guys are almost like a case study, if you will, for this different investment theses that you've been looking to apply.
Well, I really appreciate, one, that you saw that announcement and remembered us, and two, that you mentioned that. It was really touching at South by. This woman came up to me and said, I remember when you launched. And as a result,
it was huge, yeah, because back then it wasn't women doing this. No. And so it was a really big deal.
And when we launched, the headline was, new fund is open to cold pitches. And at the time, people thought we were crazy. Like, you'll take a cold pitch, you'll talk to someone you don't know.
I didn't even know that part.
And that's the whole point. Like, I don't want someone to be screening and using their own judgment on who we should be talking to. We want people to reach us wherever.
I remember that part. Okay.
And so this woman said she remembered that, and now she has started a fund. And so much of being a founder, a fund manager, doing anything, is seeing people like you go do that thing. And people often ask me, what will it look like when you're successful? And there's a lot of different ways that we define success. One is returning a ton of capital to our investors, right? We are a for-profit, return-seeking enterprise. But at a more meaningful level, when I will know that we have been successful when our founders are household names, and when the women, the people of color, the immigrant founders are just rolling off the tongues of people who want to be founders, that's when we're successful, because that's what's going to inspire the next generation of founders.
Wow, there's so many different streams that I can go through with that. And I remember at the launch, I remember looking up your background, like, who is this lady? And being really impressed with your background and sort of saying to myself, she could have chosen to go do anything. She could have chosen to take the harshest investment theses possible if she wanted to, but you chose to go down this path. So twofold: one, can you share with the audience your background and, you know, how you got started, a little bit of your journey? And then secondly, what made you or inspired you to want to actually help, as opposed to, I mean, of course you want to make money, but as opposed to just lead with the monetary face of it?
Yeah. So I took a bit of a non-traditional approach to venture capital. There were some people who worked in finance, went to VC, spun out of a brand name fund and started their own fund. I started as an operator, so I was in the digital media world. I worked at YouTube in the early days, figuring out how we were going to make money, and I launched the first ad products there. And then was at 21st Century Fox running business development in MA. And I loved the intersection of media and technology and thinking about how that industry was being transformed. But what I realized as an operator was that I loved working with founders most. I didn't really care. When we launched Tulo, I didn't really care once it got to be a bigger business and we were deciding, you know, what's the right headcount model. I loved when I met a founder who said, I have this technology, I know how to build it, and I need help commercializing it. And so I moved over to the investment side, first running an accelerator and follow-on fund, and now running January. And the accelerator is where I cut my teeth as an investor. I made all the mistakes in the world, did some things that really worked out, and just found my way of building true connection with entrepreneurs. And I think so much, you know, you can take board seats, there's governance, but as an investor, it really comes down to that relationship. And
it totally does. I feel like it's a marriage.
It is.
Yeah. I interview the investors. Because I'm like, yeah.
And that's what I say to our founders.
Yeah.
You know, whether we're getting to know them, we always say, go call our founders. Reference check us. You know we're going to reference check you. But do your references on us and let's make sure that this actually works.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to investing. You know, people always say, and in this last cycle, this frothy cycle, people would say, it's so cool that you run a venture fund. And I would say, it is many things. Cool is not the first word to look in mind. Because it's a ton of work, and it's hard, and we are grinding it out. And we're a startup fund ourselves. And so,
yeah. I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, and we raise capital in the same way. And it's, you know, as a female fund
and you have to
manager,
deploy it and make sure you're getting a return on your investment in the same way. Yeah.
But I think what I strongly believe about venture, you know, in venture, we are incentivized to invest in innovation. The reality is the way that it's going to happen is by having a broader set of investors, GPs, people like me, have the capital to use their own patterns to allocate capital to founders. And so
I completely agree with you.
Yes, so broadening the allocator pool is, I think, what ultimately gets me to the place, gets us to the place that I want to see, which is where founders, regardless of whatever pattern they're matching to, the best founders are getting funding in a way that is efficient so that they have the capital to scale their business. So we're very data driven at January. One of the, we run an early stage founder survey every year. And the first year we did it, we looked at the capital gap, right? So you hear these stats, women receive 2% of venture capital, but that's across the whole capital stack. So what we did was look at the early stage. And for every dollar that a male founder raises at the early stage, female founders raise 37 cents. Black female founders raise 2 cents.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Staggering.
Wow. Okay.
And so that,
wow. That was a lot to receive. I'm trying to process. Okay.
and I'm sorry but it's heavy.
Wow. Okay. How long have you been running the study? Are you going to keep doing it?
We do it every year.
Okay.
And the data that we dig into is different each year.
Wow.
But we did that first year, and I mentioned we were going out to see, like, is what we're doing and bringing to market important? And when we saw that data...
I'm sorry, you literally like made this. Okay, go on. Okay.
But it was that if there is that gap at the start, everyone, if you're raising 37 cents on the dollar, 2 cents on the dollar, it's so hard, right? And so that's where we're leaning in. And I think is back to your question of how do we get to a place where there's parity, right?
Yes, equality. Just of
Founders,
intelligence, equality of intelligence, you know?
exactly.
Yeah.
It's when the capital allocators are, have different mindsets
Yeah.
and pattern matching and are making those decisions.
So if the heads of, let's say, all of the heads of all the men heads of Silicon Valley are gathered right now watching this, what's like one 5-second thing that you would say to them?
Empower the people who bring diversity of thought to your team to make real decisions.
I felt them receive that in the future. Okay.
So
That was powerful. Okay, so tell us about, in your early years, what was your relationship with credit like? What does credit mean to you?
Well, I was so struck hearing about your company and really learning more about your company because it's so fundamental to credit. It's so fundamental to the way that we all experience money and build wealth, frankly. And thinking about coming to sit with you, one of the things that I was remembering was that in my first job, rather than give everyone corporate credit cards, they actually let you use your individual card and you got reimbursed. And at first I was like, this is so weird, but you know what it did? It allowed me to build credit. Because it was under my name. It was my credit card. And this was like things I knew would be reimbursed. And they reimbursed quickly, so it wasn't taking flu. But it allowed me at the age of 22 to begin to build my credit in a way that I only appreciated later when I really needed credit to go out and make purchases or start a business. And so it has me thinking about things that I can do for our team members or people in my lives who are at the beginning starting to build their credit histories.
What year in your career about would you say this was? Year 1, year 2, year 3?
It was right out of college. It was 22 years
Right out, and they gave you access to credit like that immediately?
Yeah.
Where they would, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. But again, it was your credit and they would reimburse.
It was.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we
But you were smart enough, hold on, that's where the nugget is. You were smart enough to use it and pay it off.
Yes.
How did you know to do that?
Well, because they were quick about the reimbursement.
Oh, so you were incentivized.
Yeah. And so they had that where it was, okay, and they made it easy to be, it wasn't the hours of submitting an expense report, right? And this was pretty expensive. I actually don't know what software they used for it. But that was one big thing that I think just allowed me to start to build that credit. And what's interesting at January, we've recently looked, in the past year, looked at a number of businesses that are helping different groups build credit. One recently that I thought was interesting was how do we take rent payments, which currently, what are these things that are regular, that people are paying on time? I talked to one of our founders that's in the childcare space, and they're helping facilitate payments between companies, parents, and childcare providers. Those are not credit reported yet. How do we take that payment that parents are making every single week and turn that into a credit score? Because it should be.
We completely agree. We're already working on a rental one, and there's there's some things that's already happened with that part. The child care portion I had not thought of, and I will definitely.
Well, I'm going to put you in touch with this founder because she actually has said, like, who do I talk to about how to do this? Because I see these payments, and I see that our families we serve want to build their credit, and this is really it's sort of right in front of us.
So one of the cool parts about being partnered with Experian and co-inventing our technology with them, we brought the technology to Experian, is that we get to just kind of come up with cool things and then run back to our big brother and say, hey, we would like to invent this. And it's an amazing mutual relationship that allows us to have the technology for our company, and then allows them to be able to leverage it for certain aspects of their organization as well. So we share the IP in that regard. So I'm definitely going to follow up and to look into that. So if you were talking to your 22-year-old self, what's maybe one piece of advice that you would give that you wish you had have done? Or something you want to congratulate yourself on for doing?
So I'm a big proponent on, one of the things we talk a lot about is how equity is what builds wealth. The pay gap is huge, right? But even if you can close the pay gap, what really accelerates wealth generation is equity and ownership.
Yes.
And I didn't appreciate that in my 20s. Frankly, I think I really only learned that in the last, let's say 5 to 6 years. And so I wish that I had found ways to establish some sense of ownership and equity earlier. Now, it's hard because I didn't have a lot of capital to go out and invest in things. But one of the things I think now is it's never been easier, particularly let's say in the business I'm in. I think the stock market is the same way. There are a lot of platforms that's making it very easy to invest with a small amount of capital. And so things like AngelList or Republic in the venture space. No longer do you have to be an accredited investor investing hundreds of thousands. You can invest hundreds of dollars and be unaccredited and start to build that muscle around investment and equity and ownership. And it's something that I'm still talking to people about who frankly aren't in their 20s. We talk to a lot of women about this who are in their 40s and say, I know I should be investing. How do I build my portfolio? And one of the things we did in January was we raised from institutional investors, and then we carved off a large swath of our LPs for first-time LPs, many of whom are women and people of color. Our fund is the majority of our investors are women. And we're their first investment, and we are giving them that foot in the door and excited to have them. One, so that they start that flywheel and they build their own portfolios, but two, so that when we are successful, we are helping to grow that next generation of LP. And so I think that just the whole concept of ownership and how that can accelerate wealth generation, I wish I had someone who had shared a bit about that with me when I was in my 20s.
Wow. What would you say to somebody that's scared? Like, how do they get past that first step of fear? And they're dabbling in Bitcoin.
So, we are recording this as the Silicon Valley Bank. So fear is everywhere.
Yeah.
So first I would say you're not alone. And I would say it's understandable because there is risk, and even if it's a security where there isn't risk, right? Or it's new if you haven't done it before. And so I think what I would say is find people who know what they're doing and get advice from them, and find people to do it with. What I think is really interesting about angel groups or some of these like angel accelerator groups is that you're doing it with other people, and you're taking community, and you're learning not only from the experts, but you're learning from each other.
You just gave me a genius idea. I'm going to create strategic debt communities and gather people together to make a group goal of paying down their debt and working on their credit.
I love that.
Because I think that's an excellent advice that you just gave of doing it together. And it's very powerful to do it together. I ended up really good in statistics, and I did not know that I was good at statistics. It is a sophomore class at Hampton University. I waited until my senior year to take it because I was scared to death that I was going to fail this class, and I had like just electives my senior year, and I was just going to concentrate on statistics, right? Well, turns out I'm a little bit of a genius in statistics. Turns out I was actually better than the teacher. Ended up just reading the rest of the textbook for fun, like the first month. And one day I asked the teacher a question, and she told me she hadn't got to that part of the book yet. And I was like, what?
So I'll teach the class.
So I started teaching the class in the library after class, and then people started coming to my class. So much so that the teacher started excusing them from coming to her class to come into my class because I was increasing everybody's grades.
That's incredible.
So that's what led to my whole career in research. But I bring that up because it was the group connection outside of the teacher being there, where I would gather everybody together in the library, and I would go around to each one of them in a group setting and help them understand statistics in a better fashion. And people that was making consistent E's and D's went from C's and B's.
Wow.
Some of them even made an A or two. So I think that's really wise advice to form debt groups, credit goal groups, investment groups, house buying groups, and do it together. And we're working a lot with the government and different things to help close the wealth gap. So that's also something that I'm going to bring up. So definitely thank you for that advice.
Welcome. You're welcome. I love that idea.
Thank you. So let's get to the good stuff. What is your favorite cheese?
Oh, so many cheeses. I think my favorite cheese is actually halloumi. Like a grill, when you grill it up,
Okay.
put it on a little salad.
Okay.
Because it's kind of unexpected, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to match your vibe, and I'm going to go with gorgonzola.
Oh, delicious.
Yes. I like it. Now, what bread are we putting it on?
Ooh, well, it depends. Bread or cracker?
Okay.
I often go for
It was a
cracker.
really good cracker that they had on the charcuterie board downstairs. Yeah.
I like a good cracker. That like crunch, and particularly like the crunch and the soft cheese. I generally go for a good cracker.
Yeah. Okay.
How about you?
I like a good pepper saltwater cracker.
Ooh,
Yeah. Like. Yeah.
we're gonna have to send each other some.
You know what? It's funny because Oprah likes cheese and crackers, and I've always wondered how I would spend my day with Oprah. And and recently, I saw her doing like a little charcuterie board after a hike, and I was like, now I know how I'm going to spend my day with Oprah.
Well, and by the looks of it, you can do a real spread.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I named it
I love
Charcuterie.
that. I loved it.
Because I really do it at my home all the time. If you come to my house, I really will serve you a really nice spread of charcuterie. So, what's your favorite jam?
Ooh, a fig jam.
Okay.
For sure.
Yes, I like that.
Actually, I will tell you, a fig jam or a jalapeno jam. So my husband and I, when we first moved into our first little apartment, we had this outdoor, we had a planter hanging off our balcony, and we grew all these jalapenos. And they took off. They took off. And we canned them into a jam. And we're still going through the jams. Turned out jams will last for decades.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Little spice on the like creamy cheese.
You're just full of tips.
I mean, I like a good cheese plate.
Okay, yes, okay, nice. I think I'm gonna just stick with a good old strawberry preserve. Yeah, I think that it really goes well with a lot of things, especially like, oh, you know what else? I like goat cheese a lot too. Strawberry preserve with goat cheese and some honey on that nice cracker. It all comes
Yeah,
together.
that's perfection.
Yeah. Now, what's your favorite jam music-wise?
Oh, such a good question. Well, so I have a 5 and a 7-year-old, so I am listening to a lot of
Shark, Baby
Encanto.
Shark.
Yeah, Encanto, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift. But actually, so my husband has gotten me into jazz, so he's a big New Orleans Jazz Fest guy.
Okay.
And so everything from like classic jazz over to gospel over to kind of like jazz meets rock, that's kind of where we are right now.
Very cool. Very
How
cool.
about you?
I really fluctuate. I could start off with gospel, and then I end up in a little bit of hard rap, and then I might settle down into R&B. My husband is really big into rock music, so I've been adjusting to that, trying to find a happy lane to play with him in. I could do like soft rock, I guess. I don't even know what it's called.
Yeah,
like
soft
Adam Levine type. I don't even know if that's rock. It's probably like hard pop.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. He'd probably say rock, but I think you're right.
But my husband listens to like hard rock, like Slipknot and like.
Oh yeah, my husband's been there too.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at JKK. Our website is january.ventures. There's no .com, anything, just january.ventures. And we really love hearing from people. So we love hearing from founders, people who want to start investing. We're really trying to build a new community, and we welcome people into it.
Amazing. Well, thank you for joining us to be the change that you want to see.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I know you got some rich gems out of this episode. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button so we can see each other again. Also, be sure to hit the notification bell and leave a review below. We want to hear what you think. I want to congratulate you on accomplishing today. That's enough in itself. Be loved and make sure you save your dough.